Greeting, astrophiles. This is Pat Cosgrove for Cosgrove's Cosmos. And today we have yet another update on the Whispering Skies Observatory project, where we've now pretty much completed the siding and the trim work, and we've begun to move the telescopes into the observatory. Let's get started.
In this video, I'd like to show you a sped-up version of what it was like to install the vinyl siding and trim for the observatory. But while this was going on, we were also installing the telescopes inside the observatory. And I'll give you a sneak peek of what the final result looked like, but there'll be a different video that covers that. With all the snow we've had this winter, we ended up pausing for quite a bit, trying to get into a temperature zone where it was easier to work with the vinyl materials. So finally the snow melted, although we're still getting a little bit of snow as you can see here, and we could start the process. One of the issues we had to deal with is that the original door that we ordered was custom cut to a specific size, and the size that was delivered was shorter than what was really desired. I'm 6'6", so I really wanted to get as tall a door as possible. So we ended up having to reorder the door, and we were just waiting for this opportunity to swap the doors out, and that's what you're seeing here. They've taken out the old door, they're putting in the new door. It gains 2 inches, which doesn't sound like much, but it's just enough for me to stop scraping my head as I go into the observatory. When installing vinyl siding, the very first job you have to do is put in all the foundational pieces. There's a strip that goes along the bottom, which is going to be the bottom attachment for the vinyl slats. Then you have to put the corners in and the J-channel around the windows. That's kind of tedious work, but once you've done that, the siding actually starts to go in pretty quickly. Once the vinyl slats have gotten to the top of the walls, now is the time to start worrying about the trim, and especially where the trim is going to interface with the roof at the seam where it opens. So first there is a J-channel that's put on the top that the vinyl siding will go into, but then there's also some custom aluminum drip edges that are cut and formed and put in place, then a trim board, and then another drip panel on top of it. This is very careful, meticulous custom work, and since these seams are not something you normally run into in house, there's something that took a little bit of extra work to get right. There were fascia boards that needed to be cut for the trim on the north and south walls of the observatory, but then there was also a custom fascia boards that had to be cut which were much wider that would go on the sides. These would hang down over the wheel and track assemblies, and then a brush gasket is going to be applied between that and the wall to create a seal. Rather than use the light gray slat vinyl siding on the gables, we decided to go with a different treatment. We went with a different vinyl product, which looks like cedar shingles, and we went with a darker gray. We thought that the change in texture and the change in color would make it a little bit nicer, a little bit more trimmed, and since we're going to be staring at this observatory from the house, we wanted it to look nice. With the installation of the trim work around the wheel and track assembly, finally that big gap that's been there for so long is completely sealed up. I'm really happy with the way this came out. You wouldn't guess the roof rolls off this building. The seams are very tight and very well trimmed, and I'm very impressed with the work they did there. Once the weather warms up a bit more, I'll be painting this primed steel superstructure here. I'm going to be using the same color as the darker gray in the gable shingles. And with that medium gray, I think it'll sort of disappear from sight. It won't be quite as noticeable as it is today. While all this has been going on, I've had the piers installed and the telescopes installed on the piers. I've done a lot of work to get them set up. I'll give you just a sneak peek of what that looks like now, and my next video will talk about what it took to get that all set up.
After obsessing on this project for more than 2 years, it's really great to see it this close to completion. We still have a little bit more work to do on the outside. We ran short of some of the siding materials, and when that comes in, we'll be finishing that up. And at that point, the contractor piece of this is done, and they'll pick up their mess and leave. But there's still a lot of work that we're going to have to do as we go forward. For one thing, we have to restore the lawn. The contractors have churned that up pretty good, so we're talking to landscapers to get that work done. We want to put some more trim on the outside, shingles and a sign on the observatory, some things like that. And then once we have warm weather, I have more projects I need to do. Once the concrete is cured, I want to seal that with epoxy, get a nice finish on there. Some paneling on the walls, which I can then paint. I still have a wall of countertops and cabinets I want to install, so that when I pull an OTA off one of the piers and need a place to work on it, I have a place I can do that. So there's a lot of little projects like that. So this is one of those projects that probably will never be finished because there's always something I'd like to go out and work on. On the other front, though, we now have telescopes installed on piers, and they're probably about 90% set up. I have a few more things I need to do with each one. I've crossed over to new computers, mini computers, which are attached to the piers, and I'm running Nina on them all for the first time. I'm getting all that set up. But another thrust for focus very soon is we'll start capturing photons again. After all, that's why we went through all this effort. So this is Pat Cosgrove signing off for Cosgrove's Cosmos, wishing you clear skies and excellent seeing.